Welcome to Navigating the Digital World, Basic Online Skills for Digital Media Students Enrolled in DMEDIA Classes. I am Profesora Adriana Brogger, and let's go ahead and get started. So an overview. In this pre-recorded video workshop, we are really going to get to know some of the basics, some of the most fundamental computer skills that we are going to need as digital media practitioners in order to navigate our classes and the assignments, all the things that we're going to ask you to do. We want you to be able to do these things confidently. And that is exactly why we have produced this video. And so, because you're a student in our program, this is really designed for digital media students, although there is enough information here that if you're a Delta College student, some of this might be relevant for you too. Anybody can learn the information that I'm going to share with you here. It's just a matter of practice. And so, definitely be patient with yourself. All right, so what are we going to learn? By the end of this workshop, we're going to know some computer basics. We're going to know how to access Delta College student Wi-Fi, how to log into My Delta, Canvas, and Delta email. We're going to also know how to use Box and Microsoft tools. Box is really important because DMedia students, you definitely have to know what, first of all, even is Box. If I say this resources in Box, then you're going to need to know what that is and how to get there. Microsoft tools, that's because Delta College uses Microsoft tools. And so you'll have some tools already available to you. And I might get into that in a little more detail in a different video because there are so many tools. But generally, I'm going to show you where you find them, as well as how to access Adobe Creative Cloud, Premiere, and Audition. So let's get into it. All right. So first of all, you're going to hear us talk about things like hardware and software. And if you think of hardware, I want you to think about the physical parts that you can touch, right? So what we're talking about here is the actual computer itself, the keyboard or the laptop, right? So whether this is desktop or a laptop, the physical pieces. So like the tower, the hard drive, the speakers, the screen itself, the mouse, all of that, that is the hardware. So think of it like the body. And then the software, we're going to think of like the brain. The software are going to be any programs or applications or apps that can run on our computer. So in this case, we're going to use Adobe Premiere, we're going to use Audition, Word, Chrome, any software. All of those are softwares. Or Chrome is a browser, right? So it's an app that we can use. And some of them you can have as an app, and then some of them you can log into the internet and you can access via the internet browser that you're using. And Chrome is an example of an internet browser. So we're going to think of our software like the brain. And in order for us to work and do our work in class, you're going to need both the hardware and the software because they're going to work together. So when we say things like in our program, you have access to Adobe Creative Cloud, then what does that actually mean? So if we think about that, based on what we see here, Adobe Creative Cloud is the software part, right? So we think of that as like, that's the brain, but Adobe Creative Cloud, what does that mean? How do you access that? Where do you get that? What credentials do you use for that? And then we have to think about, if you have software, do you have hardware that you can use to run the software? If not, if you don't have the hardware part, then the software isn't going to be much use to you. And so think about that when you hear us say things like hardware, software, can you access this? These are words that if you're not sure what they mean, then you might start to feel lost really quickly. And we don't want that. We want you to know what they mean because that's how we're expecting you to do your homework in the class. All right. Next, let's go into some general guidelines that are going to be general, helpful digital media IT tips for you at Delta. All right, so the first one is Delta College Wi-Fi. The network ID for students is DeltaStudentWiFi 2. The password is right here, Delta with a capital D, and then the W, capital W, Wi-Fi, capital F, and then 5151. So any device that you have that has Wi-Fi capabilities can connect to our student Wi-Fi network. And this includes most of your cell phones, your mobile devices. If you have a cell phone and you also have a laptop and you also have an iPad or a tablet, you want to think about which of these are you going to be using. So think about that and then go ahead and connect your wireless device. So go into your device's network or your Wi-Fi connection settings, and then look for DeltaStudentWiFi 2 network service and connect. So it really does depend on what your computer device looks like. So I don't have a screenshot of that. But when you join the DeltaStudentWiFi network and you try to open up a website, a login screen is going to pop up. And here you're going to enter your credentials, which are your Delta student ID and password. You're going to click agree to the acceptable use policy, which are the rules for using campus Wi-Fi. And after that, you're going to be connected. So you won't need to do this step every time you come to campus, because once you do that, it should remember your device. And for whatever reason it logs you out, you can do it again, but this is not something that you're going to have to do every time. All right. Now, I said passwords in the last slide. Really important for you to note that your passwords are so important. And you are going to have now we have at Delta College, a single sign-on system, which is really nice. And that's our Delta Okta. This login is going to help you with your school tools, your Canvas, email, and then I have Adobe here, but I don't mean I think that's actually might be confusing. So I just want to make it clear that you have to use in order to access Adobe, you need to use your Delta email. You can't use your personal email because it's not going to authenticate, or it's not going to recognize you as a Delta College student with this benefit as a DMEDIA student of having access to Premiere if you use a personal email. So I just want to make that really clear. That's why I have Adobe on there. So use a strong password, and strong passwords are a mix of letters, numbers, symbols, capitalized versus lowercase. So choose a strong password and then don't share your password with other people. I won't know your password, but definitely write your password down in a safe place. So for me, that includes on my phone as well. You might have your phone's notes app, and then also a notebook that you plan to bring to class with you. The idea is that you want to, if you are going to log into a different computer, because maybe if you're using a laptop or your phone, you might have it saved on your phone, but you also want to be able to log into another computer if needed, because we do have the computer lab on campus, as well as our computer lab there are several computer labs on campus, but we have our own DMEDIA lab space that you can log into as well. So if you happen to forget your password, Delta has a reset link if you forget. And there's also the Mustang Tech Squad that you can reach out to if you need help beyond this. And you probably will. This is not going to be a massive amount of information, I don't think. All right, so next, in terms of general guidelines, folders. So what are folders when we think of folders in the digital space? I want you to think of it like a digital backpack or a digital file keeper, okay? And inside our different file folder or backpack, we keep information because we want to keep track of it. We don't want to lose it. We don't want to not know where it is. And so the folders are these digital spaces where we're going to stay organized. And the first best practice with organization starts with creating a folder, and your naming convention, whatever you name it, be consistent with it. This is really important. So create a folder for whatever class you're in or classes that you're in. In this example, I say create a folder called Digital Media 21 on your desktop. You can also have that in a Google Drive if you use Google, or OneDrive, and that's the Microsoft product that we have, that every student also has access to. And inside that, you're going to make subfolders, and your subfolders, oh, even before this, I'm sorry, I should have put another one. Your main subfolder will be a project, right? So like, let's say you're in Digital Media 21, your first assignment is your basic shots. So then you'll have the main folder, Digital Media 21, and then your subfolder under that is going to be basic shots. And then inside that folder, you're going to have, then now we get into the subfolders, or scripts, video, audio, graphics, and even audio. You might have that separated. You might have music, sound effects, and then the dialogue, that recording. Maybe that's going to be, you had a secondary, and so you'll have an MP3 there, or maybe you extracted that work and you cleaned it up via the Adobe podcast tool, and then now you have that cleaned up version. So you're going to have lots of different files, and if you don't know where they live and you don't know exactly how to get them, then you are going to get really frustrated. So best practice is to get organized and then stay organized. So every time you download an asset or you create one, move it to the right folder. And that's going to be something that you'll see. There's always going to be location. Where are we putting this? And by default, well, I think I say this in the next slide. By default, usually when you download something online, it goes into the downloads folder. But if you're working out of a separate folder, you're going to have to move that over. So make sure that you're doing that. And again, this is the same convention you'll use whenever you create a Premiere file. And we want you to think about how you're naming these files. As I said already, save your files with this naming convention for consistency and efficiency. This is something that we ask you to do throughout our program, because we don't want you to have your file's name as untitled. If that's what we see, then when I go to download that, and I go to download 24 files for all the people in our class, and I have 8 people whose files say untitled, then that's not helpful to me. I need to know information about that file before I even open it. And that means that I'm going to need to see your last name, so that I know who that's associated with. If we have a couple of people in the class with the last name, same last name, then I'd also like your first initial there, or perhaps your full first name if there are people with very similar names. And then I want an underscore, and then whatever the project is, and then another underscore. And then here, in this case, I have a script, but that other last underscore might be for the version that we're working on. So it might be V1 for version 1. And then that'll change for V2 when you go back into that file and you make any edits. And then if you make edits again a third time, then that'll be V3, and so on and so forth. And you do that so that you know which is your most current file, and that avoids you submitting the wrong file. So there are lots of different ways to do this. Lots of people also incorporate the year, the month, the date, lots of different ways that you can do this. Whatever you're going to do, make sure that it's consistent and that we don't have file names as untitled or this is the one, nothing like that. All right, so now downloads. When you download something, whether this is from Canvas, from your email, or any place online, it usually goes to your downloads folder by default. So I want you to move this over to the correct folder, whether that's a digital media class or your project folder. Always check the file type before opening. And this is just best practice, especially when you're getting things via email. We can get things that are called spam, and they can be, or phishing kind of emails where someone is trying to send you something that is not good for your computer. And It can have malware. It's just not a good thing. So only open files from safe sources. If I'm sending you something, it's going to be a safe source. If you're getting something via Delta, just be careful, because you want to make sure that this is something that you're expecting to get. And so just be mindful of that. For Adobe, when you download a file and you edit it, save it again into your project folder so that you don't lose track. And then again, think main folder, then subfolder, and use consistent naming. All right, now we're going to get into part 1 of this. I kind of have it broken up because there's a lot that we're getting into. The first one is MyDelta, the different MyDelta resources that you're going to need. So first, we have this big red arrow that's pointing to start at deltacollege.edu. So if you go to deltacollege.edu, there's at the top, it says online tools. And I know our website is getting some redesign. So if by the time you look at this video, it looks a little different, just know that it may move a little bit, but I don't think it's going to be so very, very different that this isn't going to make sense. Essentially, you want to get to student email. If you want to get into, if you click student email, or if you click on MyDelta, basically they're all going to say log into your MyDelta dashboard. And MyDelta dashboard, we're going to take a look at what that looks like in just a moment. But as you can see, in this case, I have student email and then faculty and staff. So we're going to go to log into MyDelta dashboard, and then now we'll click. And now we're over in MyDelta dashboard. And so you'll see your username, and then you'll see the place for password. And this is where you're going to enter your password. On mine, I am always on my personal computer most of the time. And so I'm able to log in, and I can start. It has my username saved, and my password also is saved. And I work on a MacBook that has my fingerprint verify. So I can do that. And there are different ways that I can verify who I am in a safe way to be able to log in. So you want to make sure that you can do that too, whatever is the best way that you have that set up. All right. And then next, we're going to go into the next one. And this takes us into my Delta dashboard. Now, this is not actually my Delta dashboard, mine, like Professor Brogger's. This is a student's view. And the reason that I wanted the student's view instead of my own is because they look different. So faculty have a MyDelta dashboard that has some apps that you all don't have. And then we have some apps, and then you have apps that, yeah, however that was. Okay. So the first one we're going to start with is MyDelta. And this red square that I have around that is telling you this is the one that we're on right now. So MyDelta. All right, we're going to go into MyDelta now. And here is a screenshot of what a MyDelta student homepage looks like. Here, I want you to think of this. Think of MyDelta as your student home base. Canvas is where you do your classwork, but MyDelta is where you manage being a student. So for example, you can do lots of different things here. This is how you handle your financial situation, your financial aid, your financial account. How are your grades going? That's under your academic records. Under academic progress, you can see what classes you might still need. And this can be really helpful for you when you're thinking about registering for the next semester and kind of planning. There are lots of really great tools that you can access here. So academic progress, class search helps you start looking. Tasks will tell you things that you might need to do. You can do a lot of things here. Now, under profile, I have a red square here because if there's a reason that you need to go in and do a preferred name change, you can do that here just by clicking there, and then it will walk you through some steps. And if anybody needs some help with that, you can let us know. But there are also lots of videos on Delta College's YouTube page. So I would recommend that if you want to get more familiar, you can also head there. All right. Next, we're going to move into now part 2, which is where we're going to look at Canvas. And Canvas is where we run our class. So if you're in a digital media class with me, then I am using Canvas in order to give you that information. So now our red square has moved away from the My Delta and over to the online classes, because this is what we're getting into next. All right, now I am in my Canvas class. This is a class from a previous semester. And so I am taking a look at this now, and I can see that this is my homepage. So when I log in, if I were to go over to dashboard, I could see different classes, courses. These are the classes that I'm in right now. So I happen to be looking at the homepage for DMedia 11. And the way that I have all of my classes set up, whether you're in DMedia 11 or not, and I know I change my home pages frequently, so it doesn't look like this one anymore. But we have quick links that are all of these. So where it says start here, lab hours, Box, Adobe Creative Cloud, Delta College email, kwdc.fm. These are just shortcuts to other websites or spaces that I'd like you to look at. And some of these are internal from our class, and some of them are going to be somewhere else online. So this is the home page. And then if you look over here, this is a navigation bar. And I don't have a lot of different spaces for navigation for you all. For example, if you've been in a class where your instructor has had you access the class via a different way, sometimes I've seen people use files. I don't. I think that's very confusing. And I know that I have some old files that I don't need you all to be confused by. So I disable some of the navigation tools, and I keep the things that I think that you need the most. Grades, I think, are relevant for you to look at. Your syllabus, that goes right over to our syllabus. Tech Connect Zoom, I use that in my classes, and I didn't incorporate it into this video because I will go over this in great detail during our first week of class. But Tech Connect Zoom is how I manage our high flex modality classes. And that means if you're in a lab class, you have a physical seat in the lab class, but you then also can access this class via Zoom if there is some whatever reason comes up and you just can't come to class that day. I want you to be able to log into Zoom and have no loss of time that you don't know what's going on in our class. And this is also really great because whether or not you show up in person, you will have access under Tech Connect Zoom to a recordings tab where every session that we meet is recorded there. And there are lots of reasons that I think that's really great for people. You may go back and review something that I said in class. You can just have access to that if maybe you weren't able to come in and you weren't able to log in at the time that we had live class, but you want to go back and watch that recording. Now, on that note, I will say that because I have all of these modalities, I also am not the person or the professor to email and say, hey, what did I miss? Because it is on you. I'm expecting you to help yourself through the tools that we have. That's why it's important to understand what tools exist. All right. And then this is my Canvas class. Now, I always say the to-do list is going to be long. I can't manage that. You can sometimes just ignore it. I don't think it's a functional piece of Canvas right now. Some students like it. I think it just would drive me nuts. Okay, next. Let's go over to this slide now because I want everybody to know about a new resource. If you go into your Canvas class and you go over to Help and Services, and then you click over to this, or right away when you click on Help and Services, you're going to see this. And this is the one that I want you to click on, Immigrant Student Support, because that's going to take you to this page, which is a page where we have a lot of different resources for our students and for our entire campus community. This page is going to have know your rights information, links to our Dreamers Success Center, links to mental health support, to UndocuHealth, to music, red cards. You're going to be able to learn about different different board policies that have passed on campus, and you'll be able to read them as well. So there are lots of resources here that are very valuable for our students. All right, next, part 3, email. All right, so under email, now our red square has moved over to Microsoft Office 365 Mail. And I've been doing this with students for not very long, actually. I just always told students, check your Delta email, check your Delta email. And not that long ago, this year, I was in class when I realized that way too many students did not know how to check their Delta College email. And I think it could be one of those things that maybe you just feel like, I think everybody knows this, so I don't want to stop and ask. But that's problematic, because then you don't have that information, and then you just kind of feel bad about not knowing. So in order for us to not have those feelings of shame or guilt about not knowing something, that's why we're doing these kinds of videos and really making sure that our students feel comfortable navigating the digital world, even with something as simple as checking your email. So, all right, you're going to go to Microsoft Office 365 Mail, and that's how you're going to check your Delta College email. You're going to click on that. Then you're going to go over and, before we get there, some email basics. So that's how you log into Delta email. But I want you to think about writing clear professional messages and how to send files and attachments, and then some tips that I have. And I'm just giving you this as an outline because I'm going to show you an image where I bring this back up. All right. Oh, here's the image. Okay. So in this image, what I am wanting you to see and to kind of break down here is sometimes we say things about like, send an email. And then students will send an email. And on my end, the email that I'm looking at is sometimes hard to understand because I'm not getting everything. I don't know necessarily who it's from. If you have an email that's your personal email and it doesn't include your first and last name, it might be some other thing that your email is, then when it comes to me, if it isn't the name that I know you by, then that can confuse me. So I want you to get into the habit of understanding that in this field here this is our subject line. So I gave this the subject question about email. I don't know. I think I was thinking email. It was going to be question about class. But question about class would have been the subject title there. And then there is a greeting. Hello, Professor Brogger. Hello, hi, anything like that is fine. You don't have to be super formal. But hey is considered informal in professional communication, and academia or higher education that we're in right now requires us to be professional. I am showing up as a professional in my work, and I ask the same of you. And maybe no one has ever explained how to put together an email, but I want you to consider that my expectation is professional communication. So I want you to think about that when you're emailing me, Leo, anyone else on campus, because it also says a lot about you. It says that you are being thoughtful and you're taking time to really think about how you're going to communicate with this person. And that is a very respectful way to show that you're a professional student. All right. So a greeting, and then you're going to tell me what this is about. And then if you have a question about class, you are in DME, tell me what class you're in. Lots of times you say, or I'll get an email, not you, I'll get an email from a student that is very vague and they'll just refer to class. And if it's in the first week and I don't know everyone's name yet, I have no idea what class you're in or what you need or how I can help you. So I need you to be really clear. Tell me what class you're in. I don't teach multiple sections. So if you tell me that you're in digital media, whatever, then I know I only have one section of that. But there are some faculty who might have 5 sections of the same class. So in that case, you might want to tell them what's the course number that you're talking about. And then ask whatever your question is, and then sign off with a professional greeting, like a professional ending, thank you, whatever that is. And then I want to show you, sometimes I say, if you're going to email me, you should also CC Leo. So in this example, it's being sent to me, but under the CC, which stands for like a carbon copy. This is carried over from old school. Back in the day, there was carbon paper, and it still exists, but it's just that paper that it has 3 layers, and you write on the top layer and then it's copied below so that we would give that second copy to whoever needed to know. So we have that carbon copy here, and that's what the CC is. So that just means that it's coming to me, but Leo's also going to get a copy. And I think this is really a great idea, especially when you're emailing me. And that's because during the day, I'm teaching my classes and I am not on email. I typically, when I'm teaching, I'm not on my email until later in the day. So if you're emailing me at 9, 10, or 11, I am not going to reply to that email typically until 2 o'clock or after. So if you need something and you need to know really quickly, the best practice is to include Leo. If it's something that is general, that isn't private information that you only want me to know. If you only want me to know, then sure, I understand that. But if you just need somebody to answer your question, chances are very, very high that Leo will be able to help you in a lot of a faster turnaround than I will. The other thing I wanted to show you here is over here, you have the attachment, this little paper clip. That's how you can attach something. An attachment means, like, let's say you wanted to send me something. Maybe you're wanting me to take a look at your DSPS eligibility, like what your plan is, or whatever it is that you need me to see. You would attach it with this little digital paper clip, and then you're going to find whatever it is that's on your computer and then send it back to me. And that's how I'll be able to see it. Other things here, there's lots of different tools that you can play with. And if you aren't sure how to engage, don't be afraid. Come over here, open these up and see what happens before you are going to be stressed about what these things do. Get to know the tools that are within your email. One of those tools is Copilot. So Copilot will be available to all of our Delta College students, and it is an AI. It's a small language model. It's not a large language model like ChatGPT, which means it's smaller, and it's trained with specific information. And the way that Copilot is used at Delta College is every student has access to this as an app. And because I will be going into much more detail on my AI policy uses and what I'm expecting, I'm not going to get into that in this particular video, but I do want you to know what these things are when you are looking at your email. So click and learn. All right, part 4. Now we get into Box. In Box, we are looking, first of all, right now on this screen, I am seeing an image of Box, and it is a tool, a cloud storage tool that we use a lot at Delta College. Specifically, we use it a lot in digital media. And I will say pretty much everybody in multimedia I know uses it to some degree, but students aren't necessarily using Box in terms of needing their own account, unless you're in Digital Media 25A or B. Those students will be using Box, and there's a system that I have. And so if you're in Digital Media 25A and B, you will have an assignment where you have to give me your email. You're just going to complete a Microsoft Forms. And then once I have your email, I will give you access. I'll give you an invitation, and then you're going to join up. But one thing that I want you to know, and this is kind of tricky, is it'll say Delta College uses your network credentials to log into Box. So here's what happens. Lots of times you're like, okay, cool, I'm part of Delta College. So then you hit continue and you enter your credentials and it says, no, you don't have access to this app. That's because students don't have access to this app the way that faculty do. So this is not in your My Delta Okta, but it is in mine. And so I want you to know that if you are in 25A and B, you are going to click on this one that says not a part of Delta College over here on the right side of the screen. You are not part. That's the one that you're going to pick. And then over here in the smaller box where it says sign into your account, you can use a Gmail account. You can use any email account that you would like. And that's how you would access the account. Now, when we send you over, generally speaking in the digital media classes, when we send you over to say, oh, this file is in Box, it's typically going to be because I've linked it up in a Canvas classroom. And so all you're going to do is click on the link and you'll be able to see it. Now, if it's something that you want to keep a copy of, you will be able to download it, but you will not need to create an account. So let's take a look. Okay, so for example, here I use Box for everything, including my syllabi. So if I have this syllabus and you're looking at this in Box and you say, I would like to open, I would like a copy of this, I want to keep it, then there isn't usually a download button right there for you. This one, I'm logged in as myself in this screenshot. So typically what you're going to do is go to the three buttons, this little three dots, and then you're going to click download, and then you'll be able to save that. And again, as we referenced at the very beginning of our video, when you save something or you download something from online, most systems will default it to live in your downloads folder. Now, if you're kind of downloading all different kinds of things and not organizing afterwards, then your downloads folder can look really messy. And the problem with that is it's going to be hard to find information. And so if you know for sure that you want to download a copy of our syllabus and you want to have that, then again, you might save that to the folder that you created for the class. And that way you're like, oh, I'm looking for anything associated to that class. It's going to be in this folder, and then organize your subfolders from there. But again, you can download something. Now in this one, I'm signed in. So I can see that I have, let me see, I can see that I am, I see my image here, and I want to show you one more thing. Let me see. Okay, yeah, I want to show you this because we use Box a lot for students in 25A and B in order to kind of talk to them, because we can see lots of information when we have things loaded to Box. And that includes, we can see who has looked at the document, like it'll show us not just how many times it was seen, but who has looked at this. And then here, Leo is in conversation with a student. And so in order for Leo to talk to the student, he uses the @ symbol and then starts typing in the student's name. And then that makes that blue. And you can see that here when he @ me. And then what that does is it triggers an email into my inbox that tells me that Leo has mentioned this. It gives me a timestamp, and it's really, really clean communication. So Leo communicated to the student, giving him specific instructions on something that we needed for a project that we were doing for a client, and the student was able to do that. And the client in this case was a Fierce's Fall Fest Halloween event that we do on campus. Now, the student did a great job by saying, I will work on that right away. So you can see that Leo messaged at 12:41. So at 12:54, really, really great turnaround communication. The student communicated with Leo, but I want to point out that the student did not use the @ sign to communicate with Leo. So even though they commented right there, Leo didn't get a little trigger or notification telling him that the student had received the message and gave him another message right back. So I hope that by seeing that, you can see and understand that there's a lot of interactivity and communication that we can use in order to be efficient and productive when we're working within Box and other cloud storage. So lots of other ones will do similar things. We happen to just use Box. So I want you to know what that is, because in this video, I'm trying to think about all the different tools that we use and we expect our students to be able to use and to access. So I want you to feel comfortable. And if you ever have questions about anything that I've said, please feel free to just ask us in person, or you can also reach out. So now we can see that we've got confetti falling from the sky, and we're saying congratulations, because now you know more about computer basics, how to access Delta College Student Wi-Fi, how to log into your My Delta, your Canvas and Delta email. You know about Box and some Microsoft tools. And I want you to come back to this recording or the PDF file anytime that you need a reminder, because this is good information. So if you happen to have any questions, you are more than welcome to ask me or Leo for help. My email is here, adriana.broger@deltacollege.edu, and Leo is leo.marquez@deltacollege.edu. Thank you for watching, and I hope this information helped you feel a little bit more comfortable about the semester.